thank everyone for coming tonight. We've got a good crowd here. I also want to thank Robertson as well as Hazelwood. I think we're mixed here. Thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate your time to answer our questions. I'm going to go ahead. I want to also thank the League of Women Voters. They helped us put this together. We have Dr. Kathleen Farrell, who's going to be mediating tonight. And we're going to first start off with a presentation.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
if
ma'am.
you can't hear me, I used to teach a class that had 500 people in it at the University of Iowa. So if you can't hear me, just raise your hand in the back and I'll adjust. How about that? I am Kathleen Farrell. I'm the moderator, and on behalf of the St. Louis Metro League of Women Voters, we were honored asked to help work on this important forum on the City of Hazelwood and the Robertson Fire Protection District dispute. In particular, I want to thank Jennifer Guyton, who you just heard of the Citizens to Save Hazelwood and Fire Services for reaching out to us. We think it's really good that more people are getting involved and cared, and lots of people on both sides here put a lot of time into this. Many residents, we have learned, do not understand this situation, and there have been strong feelings on both sides. It is so important for us to be able to come together and try to understand each other's positions. That doesn't mean we will always agree, but we need to seek common ground, okay? In our own backyard, we can seek common ground even if the Congress cannot do so. And we must, because decisions need to be made. It is our hope that the League can help all of us ask hard questions in productive and respectful ways. So, to that end, here are the ground rules. I'm going to talk about the guidelines for the audience first, because guess what? You're the most important part of this procedure. Audience members will be provided cards. If you didn't get those cards and a pencil, just raise your hand, and a volunteer will come around and give you one, on which to write your questions, which can be directed to one or all of the panelists. The questions should focus on the issues and not on personal or character matters. The volunteers will collect these cards and give them to me. This is an open public meeting. Audience members are encouraged to make audio and video recordings and to share it with others who also need to learn about this situation. Now, I'm going to ask you something that I know is hard, and that is applause and other interruptions. They hamper our ability to ask and answer as many questions as possible. And we're real good at getting 15 to 20 questions out there. So please, let's not waste our time with them. You can certainly talk to all of the panelists and participants afterwards. And the sponsor and I reserve the right to ask seriously disruptive audience members and or parties to leave. Now, none of you look like folks like that, right? But just in case, oh, he's saying he might be, okay? I have a secret wingman who I will not disclose the identity of, who all he has to do is get the signal from me, and you're done, okay? Neither side is aware of the questions ahead of time. Each party will be allowed 1 minute to answer each question. Any question not answered here tonight by a participating party, folks who were asked those questions, panelists, will be given the opportunity to follow up with the citizens group who formed this forum with a response within 1 week of the event. And then all of the questions and all of the answers will be transcribed and made available to the public by June 29th, which is a week from today. Literature on the issues from both sides and also from the League of Women Voters is available on the tables out there. Now here's the rules for the panelists. One representative from each side will give the 5-minute opening statement. For Robertson, that is going to be Chief Howell. And for Hazelwood, that's going to be the Mayor Robinson is going to do it. That's a 5-minute opening statement. And then another representative from each side is going to give the closing statement. These are only 2 minutes long because we've already talked enough by the time we get to that, right? Now, we don't want them to refrain from interrupting other speakers or ask me to allow them out of turn to answer a question. I'm the moderator, I'm going to run it, and I'm going to enforce the rules. I'm not too bad at that, as a matter of fact, although I guess this is our first post-Zoom world meeting, and I really did like that mute button. I discovered that during candidate forums this past year, but I'll just have to use other tactics. We're going to alternate the order of speakers from each side for the opening and closing statements and answers to the questions. And I'm going to allow all panelists to answer the questions, but here's something I want all panelists to pay attention to. If you're just going to repeat what somebody said before you, just say, I agree with that. Think about adding something new to your answer. If you're not, I'm going to ask you if you have anything new. If not, we're going to go to the next person. Fair enough? That way we get more discussion. Now, we have the sponsoring organization secretary, and they're going to document all these questions. As a matter of fact, this is streaming live, and it will be recorded. And then we're going to provide that in a public document. Now, we want to thank all of our panelists for agreeing to meet with us tonight. You're really lucky because this doesn't always happen. And in no particular order, the Hazelwood Mayor, Matt Robertson. Want to just raise your hand for those who don't know you. Robertson Fire Protection District Board Member Mike Conley. Did I get your title right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hazelwood City Manager Matt Zimmerman. Robertson Fire Protection District Chief Maynard Howell. Okay? Hazelwood Fire Department Dave Furman. And notice they're sitting side by side. And finally, Robertson Fire District Shop Steward Jason Brady. Okay? So we've got 3 folks from each side. Anybody have any questions? Now, what I really need you to do, because this doesn't happen without your questions, write those questions down, make them brief, to the point, and then raise your hand, and a volunteer will come and get that card from you. Because I'm doing this on the fly, so I need them because I'm an old lady. I just turned 70. I need them as soon as possible. Fair enough? So, with that in mind, just one more thing. We've got a timekeeper. She's Ms. Victoria Turner over there. She takes no prisoners. Okay? So, she's going to time all of these statements, and she's going to tell people when their time is close to being up, 30 seconds, that's the yellow part, and then the stop sign. And I will cut you off. Don't worry about it. So, with that in mind, just so that you understand the format, we're going to begin with a 10-minute presentation by the citizens group that put together this forum, followed by those 2 5-minute opening statements. Okay? So with that in mind, I'd like to invite Jen back to give her presentation. And I think we need the lights out for that.
All right, thank you everyone. I just want to say that a lot of you know a lot about this topic. You probably are aware of most of the information here. I just wanted to make sure that I'm filling in any gaps, and for people who are new to this topic, they understand the issue as well. So, we are the Citizens Save Hazelwood Fire Services, and as Kathleen said, our purpose here is basically to have an open dialogue about this tax issue that we have. So first I'm going to start by talking about the Hazelwood Fire Service structure that we have. First of all, there's a difference between a fire department and a fire district. Some people don't realize that. Basically, your fire department is a department within your local government that handles preventing fighting fires. A fire protection district is a little different. It's basically a political subdivision that basically acts like a government, but also as a municipal corporation. So it's ran and overseen by itself. You see here, we have the city of Hazelwood. In the green, you have Robertson Fire Protection District. The blue, you have Hazelwood Fire Department, and the purple also has Forest Valley Fire Protection. We have about 14,600 people in the Hazelwood area, 4,800 in Robertson, and about 6,100 in the Forest Valley. Just to go over brief history, as we all know, probably, in the 1990s, Hazelwood began annexing up land. In 1995, they signed an agreement with Robertson Fire Protection District and Forest Valley. The agreement would be that Hazelwood would charge the residents a property tax. That property tax would then go into a general fund. That general fund would then be used to pay Robertson and Forest Valley. The agreement did not have an end date. In 2017, Hazelwood terminated their contract with Robertson. Robertson then sued for breach of contract in 2018, and that's where we currently are. So, the tax rate dispute. Our current tax rates, we're mostly going to be talking about the residential rates, but know that there is also revenue from commercial, agricultural, and personal property taxes. But your overall rate for residential is 99 cents for Hazelwood, $2.56 for Robertson, and Forest Valley is about $1.62. Now remember, the 99 cents that you pay at Hazelwood is more than just the fire and the EMS. It also has your police, your parks and rec, and other city services. You can go to our website, savehazelwood.org, and you can plug in the appraised value of your house, and it will spit out exactly what you would pay each year and each month for any of these services. So, first, two arguments to why Robertson's tax rates are so high. They're the fourth highest tax rate in St. Louis County out of 24 fire districts. First is the tax increment financing, the TIFs. The second is that the tax rates that were voted in by the residents of Robertson Fire Protection District. The TIFs, basically tax increment financing. It's basically a public financing where the city offers subsidies as tax breaks for businesses and developers to come in and develop the area. There's a trade-off. You cut the revenue from the tax breaks, but the idea is that you get overall economic growth. The pros to that is companies love that because they love tax breaks. Who doesn't? The cons are that it diverts funding away from schools as well as the fire districts. Also, businesses tend to move out when things are up. Robertson says that the residential rate is higher for the residents because they're not getting the commercial revenue from all these TIFs. St. Louis County and St. Louis City have been criticized for their use of TIFs. As a result, there's Senate Bill 870 that passed in 2018 that now excludes fire and EMS services from TIFs, unless they go directly to the fire district and negotiate a tax rate. So, the second argument is the tax rate increases voted in by the residents of the FPD. Since 1996, there's been 5 tax rate increases voted in by residents. So, in 1996, you can see here we have Prop 1 and 2 that resulted in about a 29% rate increase. In here we have 2008, there was a 15-cent tax increase. This is cents per $100 in assessed value. Then in 2014, you have Prop F, which was 50 cents. And then there was a third Proposition 2 in 1996 that was 20 cents per $100 of assessed valuation of revenue each year. So that's an annual increase. There's other things that impact the tax rate, but I do not have time to go over them. This PowerPoint will be available online. It will be much longer. This is the short version. So we also have, if you look here, compared the 3 grades to everybody, we've got the blue, which is Hazelwood. You have the Robertson in green and the Forsyth Valley. You can see that Robertson's is going up a little bit, but it does follow the same pattern as Forsyth Valley. The way we can lower the tax rates is basically the board of the Robertson Fire Protection District are the ones who can lower the rates. So if you see here, these are the payments over time, since 1995 that have been made to each fire service. Now you can remember the top one, Hazelwood has spent the most money has been spent on the Hazelwood Fire Service, but they also have 3 times the population to Robertson and Forsyth Valley. They have about 15,000 people compared to about 5,000 and 6,000. Here you can see this is where Robertson's contract was canceled, and it goes back up because they're currently paying, Hazelwood's currently paying about $330,000 per month. So, if you break that down per resident, like I said before, you can see that there is a substantial difference between the 3. You're paying about $350 per resident in Hazelwood, about $882 in Robertson, and about $228 for Forsyth. And also you can see between 2017 and 2020 the difference in the increase. You have about $30 between Forsyth Valley and Hazelwood, as well as, and then with Robertson you have about $146 of an increase. So, Hazelwood's budget crisis. If we look here, here's the actuals for Hazelwood between 2007 and 2020. You've got your money going in, coming in, your revenue. You've got your money going out, the 2020 expenses here. And then you have the money left over, which is either your surplus or deficit. Now, I have the figures for 2020. We have to remember COVID-19. COVID-19 did affect this. But we can't deny that Robertson, the payments to Robertson affect the budget, because if you look at 2018 here, that's when Robertson's contract was canceled, and we had a surplus of $3.4 million. So, Hazelwood files for bankruptcy. We are all aware our services have been cut. They're trying to avoid this. Hazelwood states that if this dispute is not resolved, they will go bankrupt in 2024. Hazelwood states that if the court case rules in Robertson's favor, bankruptcy will occur in 2022. Residents of the FPD, I just want to let you know that if Hazelwood goes bankrupt, you do not become part of unincorporated St. Louis County. You will remain in Hazelwood. So what can we do as residents? So we've been given 2 choices by Hazelwood and Robertson: either increase our taxes in the RFPD or let the city go bankrupt. There are other options. The RPD can review and cut their budget to make it more affordable for the city. We, the RPD residents, can become members of the RPD board by running and being elected and work to lower the costs. Voters can accept tax increases for all residents to help pay for it, or for the citizens. We can do a citizen's petition to be annexed from the RPD that will allow the city and the residents to renegotiate for better fire rates in the area. But we have to remember that we are a community. It's very sad to me that this has split us up into 2 sides. We are a collection of people who depend on our schools, our police, our street services, businesses, and families. Our families and our livelihoods matter the most. It doesn't matter what city our city's name is. It doesn't matter what fire protection we live in. That's what comes first. We need to stop fighting and come together. Thank you. And you can visit Citizens to Save Hazelwood, where you can contact us, sign up to volunteer, donate to the cause, get informed, get motivated, get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if we can get the lights on. If some of you are glazing over with all of these figures and details, let me tell you, I've been doing the ballot issues for the voters' guide for 10 years. It comes out in the Post-Dispatch before each election. And outside of 2 constitutional amendments to the state constitution, this issue, which I have written numerous ballot issue explanations of, is the most complicated one I've ever worked on. So, you're not alone. Take your time. All of this is going to be available to you. in pamphlets and online, so, you know, you could go back and look at it. But I'd like now to do the opening statements, and each speaker is going to have 5 minutes for those. And we're going to begin with Robertson's Chief Howell for 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad that you made it to this meeting, and Jen, you did a wonderful job with presenting this. Robertson Fire District has been in business since 1949. That's when we became incorporated as a fire district. We're a political subdivision, as Jen pointed out, in the state of Missouri. The city of Hazelwood annexed portions of Robertson Fire District long before 1995. They tried to annex, they wanted to annex the Crown Campus area. The Boundary Commission made them annex the Villa Maria, Cedar Brook subdivisions, along with Duck Road and Wheat Crest in that area. They did annex that area along with our corporation that they would pay us whatever our tax rate is at the time and whatever our tax rate would become. That was also the northwest area that included part of Florissant, as pointed out in Jen's comments. Hazelwood has continued to pay Florissant Valley Fire Protection District since 2017, 1.2 to 1.3 billion that they owe them every year. They stopped paying Robertson in 2017. They held back $3.5 million from Robertson. We almost went bankrupt. Our employees were within 15 days of everyone taking a 61% pay cut. The judge told Hazelwood they had to pay us. They paid us a lesser amount of $333,000 a month. That kept our employees employed, but we lost a lot of things. We lost, one of the things we do for our employees every year is give them physicals. That's one of the IT things that was cut, so it was training. There were many numerous things that were cut. The city of Hazelwood has paid Robertson since 1995 until the 2017 decision. The city of Hazelwood is currently breaking Missouri state law, a judge's court order, and now we have a Supreme Court ruling that is very much in our favor. In the Appleton Crestwood case, you can look up online under the Missouri Supreme Court. It says that the city voluntarily annexes into a fire district, that it will pay that district's tax rate, whatever it is. That's true with Crestwood, now has to pay Appleton. When our judge rules on this on July 9th, then the city will have to pay Robertson what our tax rate is. The Missouri Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the state of Missouri, has made this ruling. There's no appeal to this. There's nowhere else to go other than the Missouri Supreme Court, and it was a unanimous decision by the Missouri Supreme Court. Robertson has continued to provide service to the residents. We think we do a wonderful job. We keep our employees. We take care of our employees. Our employees come to us, they stay with us, and they retire from us. Very few of them ever leave us unless they're going into another career. So it's something that we take pride in, that we keep our employees, and that we provide them the best we possibly can provide them. We care about our residents. We do all kinds of things for our residents. We do movie nights, we do 4th of July parades, we do Halloween, we do, we read at the elementary school. Our crews go up and read books to elementary and second graders. They have a pizza party at the end of the school, and they give away bicycle helmets to second graders so that they can stay safe on the streets. That's some of the services that we provide, much less the day in, day out services that the firefighters provide to the residents. Running calls day and night, and waking up in the middle of the night. Robertson receives about 52% of our budget from the city of Hazelwood. The residents of the city of Hazelwood, the business of the city of Hazelwood, pay 99 cents. The residents of Bridgeton, that we also cover a portion of, pay $2.56, as do the businesses in Bridgeton. The problem that we've had with the city of Hazelwood is they continue to allow TIFs to come in, chapter 353, chapter 100s, I know those are confusing, but the fire district does not receive funds from that. One of the things, our fire marshal just issued a permit for a $7.3 million project that's personal property. We would get $57,000 off of that $7.3 million annually had it not been tipped. Thank you.
Thank you. Second opening statement. It's from the mayor of Hazelwood, Mr. Matt Robertson.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out on such a beautiful night. I know we could all be at home and mingling with our residents and our neighbors in the city, mowing our lawns, cutting our weeds, standing out there and enjoying the weather. But we've got more important business to take care of here. I'd like to thank you all for coming out. I'd like to thank Jennifer and the committee for putting this together. Some of the things you hear tonight, certainly you've experienced over the last few years, elections that had been proposed to you that you were a little confused over. There have been things that have been talked about between the two governments that we had not agreed upon, that we did not bring forward to the residents, such as merger. Merger was a big discussion. We had two different periods where we discussed merger. Then we rolled into, I believe, the Citizens Initiative, which was the termination in 2017 that was just mentioned. That was put together with residents from both the service area, Robertson service area, and Hazelwood residents. That kind of fizzled out over time, and we moved on to the neighborhood improvement districts. There was two different elections there that we came to ask the residents to help provide money to help pay for the extra cost of services, and what it doesn't. Basically, if it would have been the city of Hazelwood servicing that area, you would have paid the cost above that to help cover the cost of Robertson Fire Protection District. That was presented to you two different times ago. Then came along Proposition R. Here's the one, the reason why we're here, because a lot of people had to get out, express their opinions on whether they wanted Robertson Fire Protection in the Prop R, or they didn't want to pay Robertson Fire Protection in the Prop R. We apologize. The residents have to go out and put together signs, literature to voice their opinion and get that out there. It's been a very confusing part. Like I said earlier, sometimes residents were involved, had a choice in the election, and other times in government between negotiations between the two we weren't, such as a merger. So there's some things that you may not understand, but I encourage you to try and pay attention and listen to both sides, get the facts, because ultimately this affects you the most. As Maynard had said, it affected the employees there at the firehouse, and that they, with the cuts that were being made and so forth. Well, we in the city of Hazelwood have experienced those same problems, not just since termination, but long before then. Matt Zimmerman has a list of cuts that we made over the years. We talked about them in our most current election in April there with the Prop R, how much the city had made cuts. And the ultimate situation coming down the road is not good. It is, the city is losing its services, its programs, and its employees in a time when we need them the most. And when I look out in the crowd here tonight, you guys all are affected by those cuts. Everybody here is a citizen of Hazelwood. Most people in this room are affected, are here because you are serviced by Robertson Fire Protection District within the city of Hazelwood. But I'd like to say that you guys are the most important. You guys see those police officers out there doing more for their jobs than they had to do. They're doing more without these days than they had in the past. And that's hard to do with the cuts that we've made in the city of Hazelwood. With some of the other things, we just want you to, we seriously encourage you to get both sides of the story. Certainly, there's been a lot of information. I'm not going to say there's misinformation. You have to decide that on your own. But it's important that you look at both sides. If the city of Hazelwood does not solve this problem with the Robertson Fire Protection, we certainly are going to go broke in the near future, whether it's the importance of 2022 or 2024. So I encourage you, as again, to pay attention, get out there and listen. Don't just take one side of the story, listen to both sides. It's very important that you understand and ask for the information if you don't understand. Please. There's been too much misunderstanding in this in the past, and we want the residents to trust both governments in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, the audience, I need some more questions. So I've got some, but if you've got a question written on a card, please raise your hand and one of our volunteers will come pick it up. Now comes the really interesting part of the program, although all of it is interesting. Each panelist is going to be given 1 minute to answer a question, and all panelists are going to be given the opportunity to answer them. And we're going to start with first question, and the question is going to go to Board Member Mike Conley first. And the question is, and this may be a yes or no question, so you can just answer it quick. Is there a noticeable difference in the quality of the fire service being provided between the two?
That depends on who you ask. Everybody in Robertson, everybody in Robertson would say they have the best. And I'm sure everybody that's served by Hazelwood Fire Department would say they have the best. So, is there any difference? Different styles, but both are very good services. So they're both very good services. So I will not say one is better than the other. I personally think Robertson is because I can serve in Robertson.
Okay.
I'm sure Matt will say Hazelwood is.
All right, I think we get it. So we're going to go now to Chief Dave Kerman. What's your answer to that?
About the quality of service to the residents, I will tell you that both fire departments are good. They're all excellent fire departments. They all do a good job. I can't tell you what we do is we train extensively, particularly in rescue. We have special rescue truck and equipment. We provide ambulance service. In fact, we usually now with Robertson as well. In St. Louis County, we generally train about the same way. Our paramedics are all very good, as Robertson's are. Our firefighters are very good. And we operate with similar equipment.
Okay. Now, everybody doesn't need to use all their time, so if you don't have anything to add, just say pass. But Mr. Jason Brady, who is a Robertson shop steward, what's your answer to that?
Well, I think they're both excellent. I've run with those guys and gals all the time. As a prideful union member, I'm always going to think that our team is absolutely 100% hands down the best. That goes for any fire department, I think, in the country. I think that all the residents of the Robertson Fire Protection District are receiving really, really great quality service from environment when you show up to your house for residents. And again, nothing against Hazelwood. We run with them all the time. They're good guys too. Pride-wise, I think we're top. Thank you.
Okay, the next person is the manager of Hazelwood, Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes, no, I agree that we generally have the same training, same equipment, same expectation. I do think that we have certain specialized equipment that Robertson doesn't have, so that we can serve our industrial parts that need this special equipment for ROCO training. And I would also say that it would be nice to be able to use the training tower that Robertson put together. And for a while, we were not allowed to use that despite paying 53% of the revenue into them, that certainly would help our training as well.
Okay. Chief Powell.
I would just like to add that a lot of our members belong to what's called St. Louis County Special Operations. We're hazmat techs, Medical Officer Wade, who's sitting over here, and myself are hazmat duty officers and special operations duty officers for structural collapse. We have members that, we have one member that's training, an engineer, is a retired trained engineer that became a paramedic firefighter for us, so he's excellent on trainings. We have lots of members that have done specialized training, so that's all I have.
Okay, finally, Mayor Robertson.
Yes, I don't have a preference on which one is better, whether it's Robertson or Hazelwood. I specifically feel that whether I was injured or sick, whether it be in Robertson or Hazelwood, that we get the fine services for both the fire district and Hazelwood Fire Department, and also Florissant. It's like the doctors hit the pretty globe. When they show up, they're not going to look to see whether or not that's a Hazelwood resident in the old city of Hazelwood on a call or on another call. They're going to act and do their job as paramedics and firefighters and do their job. I think that we could ever had a complaint with services in either area or any mutual aid that we've responded to on each other. So I believe those services are equal.
Okay, thank you very much. And this time we're going to start with Chief Dave Herman. This is the question that a resident is asking. What would have to happen to reconsider the failed merger of 2017? Here's your chance to get out the best idea on this.
Well, to reconsider the failed merger from that, I think we all have to get together once again, determine how exactly that would work operationally, and then as well work with the elected officials to determine how to fund that.
Okay, Mr. Brady from Robertson.
To be honest with you guys, I'm not going to tell you I know because I know. I sat in probably 50 meetings with the city, thought we were going really well, and then the city and the shop over there walked out on us. So, to be honest with you, I'd love to tell you something, but it would be a lie. I'm not going to do that.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman from Hazelwood.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't hear Officer Brady, Captain Brady's response, so my response is not based on that talk. I just didn't hear it. But basically, you know, it's going to take, I agree with Chief Herman, it's going to take the parties wanting to work together. I think it's going to also take a willingness to take a look at the picture holistically. The last time we talked about this, I think one of the biggest issues we had, and they were many, don't get me wrong, was that they would not agree as part of this if we didn't have a fire department anymore, that the contract wouldn't apply. And that was really a huge deal. So I think that would be a huge issue we have to work through.
Okay, thank you. Chief Howell from Robertson.
I agree with everything that's been said. The one thing falls on you, the residents, because we became a district, merged together, you, the residents, would have to pay the tax rate. I don't think the city would no longer pay it. I think it would fall on you, which is kind of what Prop R was when the bids were that they tried to do. So it falls back on the residents that you would have to pay the tax rate.
Okay. Mayor Robertson.
Yes, I agree with Mayor, Chief Powell. He hit the nail right on the head. It all comes down to the residents. If the residents are interested in merger, I'll be the first one to call a meeting between the two entities to talk about it. But you have to understand what that merger does and how it affects your taxes, and you guys haven't won that. We can sit here and propose all kinds of ideas that we have in the past, and maybe we might in the future. But until we have your interest, your willingness to support such an issue, it's no good for us to be trying to present something again that you guys don't want. So, like you said, it comes down to a tax increase, and you guys would have to decide whether or not you want to go forward with the merger and along with residents in the city of Hazelwood.
Okay, finally, Mr. Conley.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna bring up, is the residents have to approve anything to resolve this issue. We can talk at the elected official level, and everything comes down to the residential approving anything that we come about. And it's gotta be done according to state law and the state constitution, which a lot of stuff we've talked about has been thrown back because it would violate state law. And to do that, we need a state legislature to pass something that can take time.
Okay. Lots and lots of people sitting out in this audience are interested in the effect that TIFs have on these rates. And let me ask an informational question first, so that we all have common ground. And that is, how do businesses charge for fire services? And is the rate the same as residents? And then we'll start talking about tips. So, first question, we're going to start with you, Chief Furman. How are businesses charged for fire services? Is the rate the same as residents?
For fire districts, my understanding that commercial structures are taxed at a different rate than residential are. In reference to tax increment financing and all that, in reference to tax abatements, there's a lot of different ways that happens. It really isn't complex with these exact how that happens. But commercial is taxed at a different rate than residential.
Okay. Mr. Conley from Robertson.
Was that about the tips?
Yeah, the question is about how are businesses and residents charged for fire services?
Was fire district, we just set a non-binding rate until we get our full assessment in from the county. And there's three separate rates. It's commercial, residential, and agricultural. And generally, they're all within 10 cents of each other, I believe. And that's all I got there. I mean, that's how it's set.
Mr. Zimmerman from Hazelwood, you want to add anything to that?
No, the only thing that I would add, and maybe I can add your next question, would be that we also have to remember that without the tax abatement, we wouldn't have all of that new economic development. And so while it may be delayed gratification, we have generated a lot of additional economic development. That we're one of the fastest growing industrial communities, one of the most popular communities in all of St. Louis County for economic development because of the programs that we have put together. That is going to benefit everyone both immediately and in the long term. The other thing I would add is the city's tax rates for residential and commercial properties are the same.
Okay, Chief Conley.
The Robertson Fire District and all the fire districts in St. Louis County, the commercial tax rate is 32%, the residential tax rate is 92%. There's an agricultural tax rate, which is the bottom down where people grow crops, and then there's also a personal property tax rate, and I don't know exactly what those two tax rates are.
Okay, finally, Mayor. Okay.
Yes, I believe the tax rate is pretty much so by everybody. I'd like to stick with the TIFs, the TDDs, the 353s, and the Chapter 100s. These are tax incentives that we use to help bring businesses to the city of Hazelwood. 25 years ago, when they were talking about relocating the stadium in the city of St. Louis, I thought that was ridiculous, trying to give out money and having people relocate to a different area and so forth. But as time went on in the state of Missouri, competition was tough. And I'll hold up with the city of Hazelwood against any other municipality of the amount of businesses and growth that we've had since the Ford plant moved out to 370 Parks. To bring future business and future revenue that, as Matt said, that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Okay, thank you. We're going to start with Chief Howell this time, and lots of questions about TIFs, so I'm going to combine some of them so we can get to as many different ones as possible. They're interested in how many businesses have negotiated significant property tax rates which affected fire district revenues. Do you have, and this could be a ballpark, but just, is it a lot? Are they new businesses that have come in the last 10 years? Because people are trying to understand what the situation is. Want to take a shot at it?
Sure. TIFs have been around for a long time. They used to be taxed at a 25% tax rate. That's what you would see with Walmart, how Walmart would come in and they would be in a location for 20 years and then 20 years. The Walmart that you see at Cypress and Rock Road is in Pattonville Fire District. They moved a mile and a half down the road after a 20-year TIF expired. Moved a mile and a half down the road and started another 20-year TIF. That's what happens. Developers come in and do that, and they do. So developers became, the TIFs went to 50%, so developers came in with what they call Chapter 353, Chapter 99 items, Chapter 100s. So fire district got together, we went to state legislature, told them that this is unfair, and that's why Senate Bill 870, as Jennifer pointed out in her slides, came into effect. Robertson Fire District has approximately $400 million that is TIF in some way.
Okay, thank you. Manager Zimmerman.
Off the top of my head, I would say we have probably given out a total of 12, give or take, tax abated projects, some in the Robertson service area, some in the Hazelwood service area. Speaking of the fire departments who provide those services, and I don't know necessarily the value off the top of my head, but what I will say is we've added well over 2,000 jobs since the plant closed as a result of those abatements. The other thing I would say is, as our economic development programs have gotten better and people want to be in Hazelwood, we reduce the amount of abatements that we offer and start making sure we start collecting some tax money right up front, as well as the other revenues the city generates from business licenses, utility taxes, sales taxes. That's why we do it.
Hey, Mr. Conley, Robertson.
Yeah, I understand tax abatements. I feel it's just welfare for wealthy corporations. The one they're doing down in Crestwood with Deerbirds, they can tip, they get tax abatements for everything but the residential section of the development. I mean, that's how they work. Residential people do not profit from these. Only corporations profit from the tip. And when you tip the taxes of a company, services still have to be provided. The residents pick up those taxes. That means your taxes have to be higher to cover that cost. And that is my biggest gripe with TIF. We run calls weekly to every service areas, and they're getting no charge for that.
Okay, Mr. Robinson, Mayor Robinson.
Yes. Again, like I said, 20 years ago, I never thought we'd be talking about TIFs and so forth and giving out the kind of incentives we do. But we do. And when you're sitting in that room talking to that developer, they have a choice to go into another municipality. And yes, we've been up against St. Peter's, we've been up against Old Fallon, along 370 there with some of the warehouses that are built to try to attract businesses to the city of Hazelwood. And yes, they were giving out incentives left and right, trying to attract those same businesses. So when it comes down to it, the city is placed in a position trying to attract the best business to come to the city of Hazelwood, what district it's in. But we also have offered, like down at the new development down at Missouri Rock Road, to where the businesses pay the taxes up front to the fire district as they develop that land, which has been beneficial to the fire district and the community.
Hey, Mr. Brady, Robertson.
I And obviously, these guys are all probably a lot smarter than me, but I think tip is a fancy word for business doesn't pay the rate that you guys are trying to pay. So, that's just me. I'm a firefighter, I don't know a whole bunch about tips. I will say that from what I understand, the Robertson Fire Protection District, our service area is a majority of the commercial and industrial in the entire city of Hazelwood, and that portion of revenue makes up a big chunk of the city's entire budget. We're sitting here talking about what it costs for Robertson and all the bad things about Robertson, but you don't see in print here is how much revenue is generated for the city in the Robertson Fire Protection District. So I would just ask you guys to all look for all this information. It's available online, it's all public information. And again, like I said, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but the information's out there.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Chief Berman from Hazelwood.
Thank you. I really don't know how many businesses are tipped within the city of Hazelwood, so I don't have much to add to that. But I do know that tips do help the city bring in more business. That's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Now, our audience has some ideas about what to do about this. So here's a question, and we're going to start with Chief Howell. Why can't tips be partial instead of full to help offset some of the finances for both the district and the city? Why can't they be partial tips instead of full ones? Partial tips.
Partial tips.
Yeah, why can't tips be partial instead of full? Why can't they be negotiated, for example, to keep the fire district or the fire department portion of the property tax intact? By the way, people are talking about this in terms of school district taxes too. So why can't we negotiate them?
Okay, so Senate Bill 870 covers that. And that's what's so good about Senate Bill 870, because now, for a business now to come into Robertson Fire District, it's within the city limits of Hazelwood, they have to come talk to Robertson Fire District and negotiate whatever that is. Right now, our tax rate for those businesses, as Jason pointed out, that they're businesses that don't need tax breaks, it's 100%. So we can choose to do that, we can choose to lower it, but we will not for the time being. A business came to us from Bridgeton side. That was a $40 million business that we planned on, had 3 sites to look at. The 3 sites, one was in Hazelwood, one was in Bridgeton, and one was in St. Belleville, Illinois. And they chose to do the building in Bridgeton. It's a $40 million building with $40 million personal property. Bridgeton asked us if we would lower that, and we said no, absolutely not. So it's 100%.
Okay, thank you. Next, Mr. Zimmerman from Hazelwood.
I think that's a great question, and the answer is yes, they can be partial tax abatements, and the city has been doing partial tax abatements for the last 3 or 4 different deals that we've done. As the economy got better, as well as COVID, of course. And of course, the Senate Bill 870, now the fire districts are held harmless from any tax abatement. And so the city, because we're economic development to help our citizens, not hurt our citizens, by taking money out of the city's pockets, we make the developers sign what we call a fire service indenture, in which they have to pay us back what we pay Robertson. So the fire district is not being harmed by any new tax abatements, and the citizens are not being harmed. And for several years, we've been doing partial tax abatements.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Connolly from Robertson.
Yeah, if you see me lean over and talk, I was verifying what he already said. I knew you could structure it with an abatement to your preferences. I spent 10 years on the city council. So I thought you could. The old abatements, they really damaged income for a fire district or a school district, because someone had to pick up the cost for covering those areas. So,
Okay. Thank you. Mayor Robinson?
Yes, I just want to I don't want to repeat what Matt said, but yes, the city over the years has been doing partial negotiations with the TIFs and so forth, and voluntarily payments that, like he said, it's where those businesses agree to pay the fire district rate to the city of Hazelwood, which alleviates that gap of not receiving any money for fire services for that property. I'd like to just also point out that Mills Mall, I believe, is worth $1.1 million. I just confirmed that with Matt. And that's going to retire, it's expired in 2022. So that's going to be over, that tip in Mills Mall will be over with. But just as a piece of information. Thank you.
Thank you, because two people in the audience wanted to know if there are any of them that are expiring that we can use. So, Mr. Crady, Robertson.
That must be above the blue collar work, pay grade, because I've never been at one of those tables, so I'm not privy to any of that, so I can't tell you how TIF can be negotiated. I'm just one of the workers.
Okay, and we appreciate you, all of those. So finally, Chief Herman.
I do, I'm not an expert in TIFs, but I do understand that not all of them have to be 100%. And I do understand that the Senate Bill 870 allows the fire districts to receive tax money from these commercial buildings.
Okay. One last question, which is, in the next 5 years, how will your income change as the current TIFs expire? Can you give an example? And the mayor gave an example. And we're going to start with Chief Herman too. And if you don't have an example, that's fine, just say you don't. And we'll go on to the next question. Not everybody is expert on everything. So, but we're going to start with Chief Herman.
Once again, I'm not an expert on the TIFs, so I do not have an example. I will pass that along.
Oh, okay. Mr. Crady, how about you? Do you know of one? Okay, great. Mr. Robinson, you gave one example.
Well, yes, I believe when that TIF, the Mills Mall retires, I think everybody will benefit on the taxes that we should do. I believe it's in the last 20 years or so, I think, since the TIF, 23 years, I think, since the Mills Mall agreement had been put together in 1998, 99 negotiations. But that's one big example that's going to expire. People want to know if they expire, they all have an expiration date. Every incentive is going to have an expiration date. So even though we're giving that money away for a period of time, we'll receive it full within whatever that expiration date. And again, some of those properties may not have ever been developed if we wasn't trying to provide some type of incentive. They'd still be agriculture down there in the market section.
Okay, finally, now Mr. Conley from Robertson, you have an example?
Don't want me to talk, man. I see our revenue, I'm hoping, once they start paying their part, we start dividing up the money equally. That would roll our taxes back, for which we're all taxpayers, we're loving to taxes back. But if we got a company for them, we should be able to roll our taxes back. And I mean, that's our hope. Because we need so much money to run, more people paying into that amount of money, than that money everybody pays this for.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zimmerman.
Yeah, I thought it'd be last, but probably the only person who really knows all our TIF stuff is me, talking with my other colleagues on the table. So yes, the Part 370 TIF is going to be expiring. That will affect our payments to them. Yes, what the county tells us based on current assessed valuation, that will change by next year. We will be then paying them another 1.1 million. The city will be paying an additional 400,000. And to answer your question, the Hazelwood Logistics Center TIF That was 10 years at 100%, 8 years at 50%, and in the next 5 years, that will go to a 50% tax rate.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Chief Howard.
Actually, I think the Bills Mall is probably the best example of a TIF. It was something that was about a $60 million project when it was built. It's worth $1.5 million luckily right now as it sits. The TIF doesn't expire until 2023. The developers walked away from it. Robertson Fire Protection District at the end of this TIF was supposed to receive $1 million a year off of that TIF. As you can see, at $1 million, or a little over $1 million, we're not going to see anything like that. Most we've ever received from there is $250,000 off of those loans. So you can see exactly why we're against TIFs, why TIFs are a bad idea. Because developers come in, they develop something, and they walk away.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me tell you that people would really like to know a couple of things about this. So maybe this kind of public information could go up on the website. Folks want to know how many TIFs are currently in place, how much are they for, when do they expire, and are we tracking how much economic growth they really brought in? Sounds like reasonable questions on all sides to me. So I put together all those questions, just making a suggestion for your public officials to do that. Fair enough? All right, let's go to the next question. And that is, let's talk about Hazelwood bankruptcy, cutting of budgets, et cetera, et cetera. And here is the first question. And we're going to go to Chief Howell first. And the question is, why can't Robertson work within Hazelwood's fire budget?
A fire district is quite different than a city. A fire district has to hire their own attorney, their own accountants. They have to do all their own things. Where cities can take their vehicles to the city garage and get them work done. We can't do that. We don't have a city garage. We have to hire a mechanic service that's certified in emergency vehicle operations. We have to have our own attorney. We have to have our own accountant. City fire departments don't have to do that. They can do that within their own, within the city government, but a portion of their money that they provide for an attorney goes into the fire department budget, but not the whole thing. So, that's kind of the answer I have.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman.
I think that's a great question. Obviously, the people who make the decisions on the budget can answer it way better than I can. But I think that is a question that the city has been asking for quite a long time. We feel like we provide excellent fire service along with everything else for all of our revenues. We're trying to keep all of our expenses reasonable. And so I think that's a question that deserves an answer, to be honest with you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Conley from Robertson.
We, get my words together. We feel we provide great service for the cost. We watch our budget extremely well. There's nobody, watches the budget like a firefighter. And the city of Hazelwood did a study to create their own fire district. Their tax rate was going to be real close to what our tax rate is now. That's why they dropped it, because they thought they could do it for less, and found out they couldn't. Because all the extra expenses that the fire district gets out or stuff the city provides.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Robinson, Mayor Robinson from Hazelwood.
Yes, I believe when we studied the fire district in the city of Hazelwood, our rate was about $1.70 or $1.80, which was still significantly lower than the Robertson tax we currently pay, or we currently pay on we have. But the question is whether or not how Robertson could fit within the city of Hazelwood's budget. I don't have an answer to that question. If I did, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. we could go back to days with the sunshine records from them, under the sunshine law, but we ended up not going that far. We ended up not reviewing their budget and publicly and going through the records because we had come up with agreements and solutions such as Prop R for the next step. So we never went through a public review of the records to see where their money has been spent.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Craig, do you have anything to add on that?
Just to echo what Chief Holland, Director Conley said, when the city did a study to decide that they could become their own fire district, what they found was it was very comparable, or I believe even a little bit higher than our rate is. Like he said, a fire district is its own entity, and all we do is we focus on fire EMS, providing the best. A lot of the municipalities, as you see fire service and stuff, you see these municipalities getting out of the fire business, and then they're taking over, similar to a school district. Would you want a city running your school district, or would you want the Hazelwood School District running Hazelwood School District? So it's similar to the fire district, so just, keep that in mind when you decide who you want in charge of your fire and EMS care and the education of the youth.
Okay, finally, Chief Herman from Hazelwood.
Thank you. I can't answer for Robertson, but just in general, knowing about budgets that I've prepared in the past is that, while Chief Howell is correct, there's a lot of things that the city offers the fire department that the fire district doesn't get. The lion's share of just about any budget are those support services, as well as wages and benefits and lawyers and all of that. So while I can't answer for that, I can tell you that in general, that's the lion's share of any budget.
Okay, thank you. The audience has some ideas about this. Here's a question. Why can't you share some of these costs, like vehicle maintenance and other kinds of things? Maybe not lawyers, but those kinds of things, asks one member of the audience. We're going to start with Chief Howell.
We have looked into that, and we do a lot of that. As an example, Robertson Fire District bought some new rescue tools. At the same time, the Eureka Fire Protection District was also buying rescue tools. So we jumped in with them to buy the rescue tools, because if you buy 5 sets of tools at $35,000 a set, there's about a $3,500 break if you buy 5 sets. So by us buying 2, Eureka buying 3, that put us over that threshold that we were able to save $3,500 per set that we bought, which was a $7,000 savings. As far as the city, I'm not sure, because I know the city has their own services that they provide, but the fire districts, we looked at mechanical services. But you have to have EBS mechanics that operate, that work on your equipment, and they have to be EBS as emergency vehicle service. So they have to be certified, because if you get in an accident, now you have a certified mechanic that's working on the truck.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zimmerman from Hazelwood.
Again, I think that's a great question. I think that's an area that probably needs to be explored more. I do think that, and certainly, for example, our police department works well with Robertson. We go on joint calls. I'm very glad that now Robertson has agreed to a mutual aid agreement for ambulance. That didn't happen for many years. We see this all as Hazelwood residents. We're all part of Hazelwood. You're simply served with fire and EMS by Robertson, by contract. And that's why we see all of you as all of us. We're all in this together. I think there are some ways we can help offset some of those costs.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Conley, do you have anything to add? And if you don't, it's okay.
I don't have nothing to add.
Okay? Mayor Robinson, how about you?
I would welcome the negotiations in the future to kind of share services. I know that we talked about that with other municipalities, in the surrounding area, the Parks and Recreation, police, street services. But yes, the conversation really hasn't been made to negotiate other services in the fire districts, the surrounding ones. But it's something that I would welcome in the future.
Okay, everybody watching that. Mr. Crady from Robertson, do you have anything to add to that?
I do have something to add to that, because I sat in a lot of these meetings, and this is no offense to Chief Herman, because I think he does a great job as a fire chief. But when we were talking about merging the city of Hazelwood, these merger talks go very well. One of the things that our last fire chief offered, when they were going on the hunt for a new fire chief, is he said, hey, we're going to talk about doing this merger. While you guys are going out looking for a new fire chief, this is a cost that we can share. If we can even do it on a one-year trial basis, we will provide your fire chief for you for next year and your administrative assistant. So we were going to share those administrative costs. So I don't know, maybe some of these guys forgot because some of these guys were in these same meetings. We had those conversations. We talked about that. And that was something that we did bring to the table as one of those outside of the box type meetings. So that is out there. We do have record of that. You guys are free to look at any of those notes or whatever, anything.
Okay, and finally, Chief Herman.
Okay, well, as far as shared services, services that we receive, there are some that we do now. We share training, and we all pay a certain amount into the training fund, and we all are allowed to train together at a lesser cost than we individually did that. And as far as equipment, we make a lot of our purchases through what they call a state contract, where the contracts are already negotiated for vehicles at a lesser cost, other equipment at a lesser cost. And do we share services that we provide? We do. We have mutual aid with each other, and it's not uncommon for Robertson to run calls at Hazelwood, or my fire district, my fire department area. It's not uncommon for my fire department to run into the Robertson area of Hazelwood. So there are shared services that certainly do get better, but there are a lot of things that we're allowed to do. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start with you again, Chief Herman, and we're going to turn to people's questions about, so what are you doing to cut your expenses? And let me try to put several of these questions together. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Somebody said, what kinds of budget cuts and concessions have you undergone? Another person in the audience says, if you're so small, why are you so expensive? Another person asks, why do you have all these paid lobbyists? They assert that you have 7 paid lobbyists. So I'm going to put all those together, and they have questions about how you spend your money.
I'll try to remember all of them. To start with, Hazelwood Fire Department does not have any paid lobbyists for us. I'm not aware of the city they may, but fire department.
You know what? I apologize. That was for Robertson. So the question for you is, what kinds of savings are you doing? I apologize.
I will tell you, over the last 3 or 4 years, our budget has remained the same or lower. And the ways that we can reduce budgets is to put off purchasing equipment, repairing the stuff we have as opposed to buying new equipment, putting up, building a new firehouse to replace our firehouse down on Lindbergh. We haven't seen probably one of the oldest ones in St. Louis County. So we're doing that. We're just being very frugal with all of our expenses that we keep the budget down.
Hey, Mr. Crady, do you have an example of some cuts or tightening your belt that you're doing in Robertson?
Similar to what Chief Herman said, we have not replaced equipment that would normally be replaced at this time, or just, general maintenance of ladder trucks and stuff like that. Big heavy trucks going down the road, we end up having higher maintenance costs sometimes because of the, time we put those off. And I'm sure I'm not going to elaborate too much further, because I'm sure Chief and Mike will add to this. That's all I have.
Okay. Just a little bit of a different version of the same question for you, Mayor Robinson. Folks want to know, what kinds of cuts have been made in your fire department, or has the Hazelwood Police Department had to be cut? They're also interested in concessions.
I believe, Matt gave me a piece of paper talking points here, but I don't have my glasses. That's okay. I believe we have not replaced by attrition with retirements, police officers, police department and other positions within the city of Hazelwood, the fire department. We certainly have made cuts throughout the whole city of Hazelwood with salaries over the years. Our salaries haven't kept up with the market study, and you were paying attention to our meeting the other night, so that's one area of cuts. But we feel that we have made our cuts. I mean, one of our major cuts we made in our fire department, we went from 4 men on a truck, we back down to 3 men on a truck, which was equal with Robertson. If you were to ask us whether or not we had a better service 3 years ago, yes, I would have said we had 4 men on a truck when they respond to your house for medical emergencies or fire. But we had to make that cut.
Thank you. Mr. Conley, another little bit twist on the same question, and that has to do with, are you making any cuts in your personnel? One person noticed that you just hired someone, and 2 other people want to know if you would be willing to put the union contract online so that the public can read it.
The union contract online, that I would have to ask our attorney if we can do that. I'm not going to say yes or no to that. I have no problem with anybody seeing the contract, but I don't know if it's, our attorney will allow that. As far as cuts, we're cut for safety reasons. We got to keep our manning here the way it is. So we replace people that leave, and keep our manning in what we have, which is exactly like Hazelwood has. We run 3 men on the truck, and we have to keep services to our residents that they require for their safety.
Okay, another version of this question, and it's the perfect question for you, Mr. Zimmerman, from Hazelwood. And that question is, the city has frequently said, if we don't get this resolved, we're going to go broke. People want to know, what does that look like? I bet you want to know that. What does that really look like when you say that for the citizens of Hazelwood?
Well, that's going to be hard to answer in 1 minute, to be honest with you. The short version, I guess, would be, and I do want to correct one thing very briefly from the presentation. The Citizens Committee, I think they did a great job. But we're not forecasting, even with the loss of revenue, going broke to 2024, not 2023, only because of the $4.6 million we're getting in federal money from the stimulus. But should we get to that point that there are no resolutions, then basically the city does not go out of business. It's not like a private company. We provide critical services. And so what will happen is we'll have to restructure our contract, to restructure our debt payments. They'll probably, based on our experience in other cities that have gone through this, will probably result in fewer revenues and other increased fees, which would be our best guess. So what would happen given the time frame that I have.
Okay. This question is for Chief Powell. And that is, if this doesn't get resolved, what are you going to do to guarantee good response time and quality service?
Before I answer that, I'd like to go over a couple other things that was missed here a minute ago. Some of the stuff that we've cut is physicals. We've cut our training budget. Firefighters have had no raises in the last 4 years.
Please, remember?
We take a crew off of our ladder truck that's at our house too, and we man a second ambulance to keep an ambulance in service. We're hiring a person because our overtime budget is through the roof because we have some people that are out on long-term workers' comp.
Okay, thank you.
What's the rest of it?
That's pretty much that you're on the hot seat first this time. It'd be last and then first, and here's the one about the lobbyists. 2 people wrote about this, and they said, is it true that you had 7 lobbyists? And why do you need that? So can you answer that definitively? lobbyists? 7.
No, we do not have 7 lobbyists. We belong to an organization called the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts. They're the ones that help pass Senate Bill 870. We have 1 lobbyist that we pay from Robertson, and we have the group that is the lobbyist group, the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts that we belong to. It costs us $3,000 a year, similar to the city of Hazelwood. It belongs to the League of Mayors and city managers and all that.
Okay, here's a question for you, Mr. Zimmerman. I'm trying to stay on the same topic, but get as many specifics as possible, so I hope that's okay with everybody. How much money do you have in reserve? How many months the city?
Based on our forecast, hold on, I got the number right here. Based on our forecast for our fiscal year that will end on June 30th, we are looking at having about 35% reserves, which would be, should we do that math? About 5 months. And then if we're pointing to adopt the budget, that goes through the deficit, we'll be down to 47% reserves for about 3 months. And then we start to go into mandatory cuts next year. And then we run out of money in by give or take December 31st, 2023.
Okay. This question is for you, Mr. Conley. And just flat out, people want to know, is there going to be a rate increase? Will there be a proposition on the ballot that singles out the Robertson Fire Department residents again within the next year?
As of right now, there's no plans to have anything on the ballot within the next year. Proposition R was put on, we were told by a judge to do that.
Okay. Question for Mayor Robinson, and that is, can you explain why the Citizens Initiative was not put on the ballot?
It's a tough question because my feelings of why it wasn't put on there may not be the rest of the city council's view, but
Can you speak up, Mayor?
I said that is a tough question, and my feelings may not be the same as everybody else's. Certainly, with the court situation, you all know about, we were in negotiations with the mediator, and there were certain things that were being discussed at certain times to bring solutions to the residents of the city of Hazelwood. So some of those ideas look better than the fight for the Citizens Initiative. At the time, the Citizens Committee was just getting started. It certainly didn't have a big meeting like this to develop into a big group. It certainly had some potential, but it didn't quite make it there before some of the other solutions came in there. That's how what happened. It seemed like the residents pretty much had to understand each solution.
Okay, your time is up, and I apologize for not taking this time. Okay, this is for you, Mr. Brady. As a guy on the ground, what would have to happen? Would the workers support a reduction in the rates?
Or pay rate?
No, the property tax rates.
We had to look at all the budget stuff to see if we could make it work, but that's kind of one of those questions that doesn't really even make a lot of sense to me as far as the workers being able to even approve something like that.
Okay. Finally, for Chief Dave Kernan, if you could envision a murder, I know it's tough sometimes to think about that. What do you think would happen to your fire engine houses? Would you thought about that?
There were a merger between Hazelwood Fire Department and Robertson Fire District. I would imagine that the firehouses would basically stay in the same locations and probably be the same number of firehouses in order to keep the response times under 5 minutes to every resident. I would envision newer firehouses than one to replace probably one of Hazelwood and one of Robertson. The locations would seem to be okay, and that would work.
Okay. Now you're on the hot seat first this time. This is a very interesting question that I want you all to answer creatively. People want to know, what has the outcome of past elections and the actions of citizens, like this group tonight, told you about what citizens want and what they don't want? How do you interpret it? We're going to start with you, Chief Herman from Hazelwood.
The question is, how do I interpret what the residents want and don't want?
Yeah, how has the outcome of past elections and the actions of citizens, like these people sitting here tonight, told you about what citizens in Hazelwood want or don't want?
I wouldn't be good at interpreting exactly what they want by that, other than whether they voted for it or not. They've had several different issues on the ballot, and it's hard to understand what that we're all about. I don't know that I could interpret exactly what they want, but based on the votes, I can determine what they don't want, and that's the stuff that was on the ballot. So that's really all I have.
Okay. Mr. Crady, looking at your constituents out there, how do you interpret what they voted on in past elections and other actions like this meeting tonight? What does that tell you about what they want?
Well, all I can tell you is that I'm not going to be able to interpret what they want, but I can tell you what some people have told me. But then again, they may be telling me that because they know that I'm in favor of this. Kind of like what Ralph was telling Mr. Zimmerman and Mr. Mayor Robinson, I think it depends on who you're talking to. But what we've heard is they don't want to pay the rate. A lot of these residents, like Bobby Bailey back there, I know Mr. Zamundo over here, these residents are very engaged. They know the issues. They know what they're paying. They know the deal that was made back in the 90s. And, they aren't willing to just accept that financial burden on families.
Okay, Mayor Robinson, what about you? You should be looking at elections.
Well, certainly we do pay attention to our residents. Yes, it has been very hard to gauge the citizens' opinion lately. Certainly Robertson has been trying to tell their story through newsletters and so forth, and you've all been receiving those. And at one point in time, a while back, we were doing the same, and we were trying to tell our story. So when it really comes down to it, Prop R really got everybody's attention. Nobody really paid attention to it, so even though they voted down the bid twice, they didn't really pay attention to the stories of both governments. But this time they did, and we heard from the residents that they don't want to pay new tax rates. Well, now they're understanding this position we've been in and the solutions that we've been dealing with over the last few years, and we certainly appreciate their interest, and hopefully together we can come up with some type of solution in the future.
Okay, Mr. Conley, how about you? You're on the board.
Yeah, I think the residents spoke loud and clear. My interpretation is they want the Hazelwood to keep up the original agreement that they made during the annexation. That was that they would pay fire tax. It's not a feasible thing. The city is not going to prosper this way, but that is what they want. The other thing they told me, a lot of them told me, was, why are they just picking on us? What about the Forest Valley area of the district, the Riverwoods? Why ain't they going to get them to pay their fair share? I mean, they're under the same agreement, but they're still paying Forest Valley. So they feel like we're being singled out.
Okay. Mayor, Mr. Zimmerman, how about you?
I generally agree that everyone's always worried about change, and that's certainly understandable. But I think the message that we're hearing is that people also understand that change is going to be inevitable. The agreement from 1995 is no longer sustainable. The world in Hazelwood has changed. We know the world has changed. port is closed, $3 million went out the door the day port closed. And so what we're doing now is finding out what type of change is going to be best for the residents all across Hazelwood. That's what we're working towards.
Okay, and finally, Chief Howell.
I think the residents want two things. One, they don't want to pay a higher tax rate. And one, they want the fire department and EMS to show up when they need them. And that's the bottom line, is that we show up when you need us.
Okay, just so that you had some hope, and you all have been paying very good attention, I've got one more question, and then we're going to have closing statements. And there's a number of people here from the City Council and from the Robertson District Board and employees, and they would be happy to stay afterwards. Is that all right with everybody? Who want to take in? We're going to start with you, Chief Howell, and that is, what would you estimate your cost of litigation has been?
I'm going to guess that it's about $450,000 that we've spent so far.
Okay. And how about you, Mr. Zimmerman? How much has the litigation cost the city of Hazelwood?
I don't know the number right off the top of my head. I know that it's a little over $1 million.
Okay. People think that's an awful lot of money.
We're not the ones who sue.
Okay. Let me,
We are, because they didn't pay us.
okay. Remember, don't interrupt. Don't interrupt everybody. Just cool it. We'll have a chance for a more lively exchange at the end, which is coming. So, Mr. Conley, I'd like you, the rest of the four of you to answer this question. What are you willing to do to try to resolve this? I know you've been to court. I know you're under mediation now. What are you willing to do to solve this problem?
For one thing, I can't sell it. I spent 10 years in the council, this was a big issue with me then. Been almost 10 years now on the fire board, it's still a big issue. The residents have gotten a free ride for 30 years, 25 years, something like that. I maintain my position on the council that the residents should pay for their services. I maintain it still. The residents don't feel that way, so the residents have to solve this issue. I can't solve it.
Okay. Mayor Robinson? What are you willing to do to solve this problem?
Just about anything with residents' support. As Mike said, nothing's going to happen without your support. We've offered so many solutions over the time, and some of them, most of them all have been aggravating to you, whether it be an election or just been served. But as Matt says, this is unsustainable for the future of the city of Hazelwood, so we have to keep trying to solve things and informing our residents of both of our stories and letting them make a decisions. The best way to do this is what we're doing right now. Because neither the courts nor the two governments can force you guys to do anything without your support. So, thank you for having us.
Okay, Mr. Creighton, what about you? You're on the line. What are you willing to do to step up to the plate and try to help solve this?
We talk to the residents, we talk to the city about mergers, we're in the court case now, so we'll see where that goes. Again, we want the city and the fire district to do well. We want to, we mainly focus on providing the best fire and EMS to our residents. That's my main focus, that's my men and women's main focus, but we are here for you. We show up when you guys have an emergency. That's the bottom line for us and my members. So that's what we're here for. That's what we focus on. A lot of these elected officials, and chiefs, and the higher ups are going to make those decisions. shop is always there to listen to the residents. That's what, you know, the union, we represent all of our workforce, and our workforce is the ones that show up to protect you guys and gals when your house is burning or somebody's having a heart attack or whatever. So we're here for you, you know, and feel free to contact us at any time.
Okay, thank you. And last, the Hazelwood Fire Chief.
Well, I would really echo a lot that Jason Grady just said. As a fire chief, I work with the direction of the city manager. So really, what I'm willing to do and what I do now and what I will continue to do is just do my very best to see that the residents of Hazelwood receive the best emergency services possible every minute of the day.
Okay, closing statements are 2 minutes, and then I have just a couple of very quick announcements at the end. So we're almost there. So we're going to flip who does it first, and we're going to have closing statement, 2 minutes, by Mr. Zimmerman from Hazelwood.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to thank the Citizens Committee for putting this together. I think this kind of stuff is what gets us out forward towards a solution. I also want to thank Representative Robertson to come to this meeting so that all the residents can hear all of the different perspectives. I think that's great. I think, Kathleen, you've done a great job as well, and moderating it. I've been very impressed. I will tell you that the city remains committed to trying to work towards a solution. We are actively engaged in mediation. We are hoping that mediation comes to something that the parties can support and present to the voters that they might support. I think the feedback we've gotten, particularly in the last few months, as the mayor said, has also been very helpful to both parties. And I think you've heard both parties say that tonight. So it's going to be a tough road. I would simply conclude by saying that we ask for your patience, we ask for your support, because we're going to have to do something different. There is no question that we are running out of money. And I say that not as the city manager, but the independent mediator that was assigned to us by the trial judge. He ran his own numbers, and he hired his own accountants, specialized CPAs, who ran the numbers, and they said the exact same thing. The city is running out of money. And when the city runs out of money, Robertson runs out of money. That's not good for anybody. We don't want that to happen. The city stands ready to serve you, however we can do that. We have great departments, as you know. Our departments are out there, including our fire department, which you don't see as much. So I believe that there are solutions out there. We will actively work in mediation towards a solution everyone can support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Finally, Mr. Conley from Robertson.
Yes, I'd like to thank everybody that put this on and everybody that showed up today. I would love to see this solved. 2017, December, the city passed resolution 2017-13, dissolving the contract arbitrarily. That's why the lawsuit happened. As far as solving this, a strong city, a strong fire district is vital to this, vital to the businesses, vital to us. I would love to see it solved. I'm open to any and all suggestions. We've got to run things by legal. We work with our state representatives and our state senators, trying to figure out the best way to do this, but it's got to be done by the residents. We want to hear from you. Our doors are always open. If you have any questions about our budget, show up at our meeting. We will let you see the same budget we look at every month. We go over our budget every month at a meeting, an open meeting. So anybody's welcome to show up, and we'd be glad to have you. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like all of you to join me in thanking these panelists for coming. It wasn't an easy thing to do. And I'd like to thank Jennifer Gaiton and for caring enough, particularly as a young resident I told her she's got a future, so you should look at her as part of a solution, and other people as well who support Robertson for doing a lot of work to make this conversation happen. So let's thank this citizen group. And we've got 4 volunteers from the League of Women Voters who've been working on this. And if you just raise your hands, I'd like to thank you. Okay? We have elected officials and members, employees, and people affiliated with both Hazelwood and Robertson. If you just raise your hand so folks know where you are, you might want to go talk to them at the end. So I want to thank them for caring to come. Okay? And I hope you found this helpful. We spent an hour and 39 minutes going over some very complicated things. I found this useful, and I learned a lot. And I learned a lot more tonight. If you thought this was helpful, and this is the kind of public discussion that we ought to be having about all kinds of problems, okay? Think about joining us with the League of Women Voters. We've been talking lately about this is where we are. It is possible to have a civil conversation if we disagree. But those conversations allow us to find common ground, to listen respectfully to our opponents' questions, and to try to sit down and work together because we have to. We have to. So think about joining the League of Women Voters because we're doing this kind of work and working on ballot initiatives and other kinds of things. We don't support political parties. We don't support candidates. But we try to make sense of what is going on around us. And we have a healthy North County unit that could use you. And by the way, the League of Women Voters is not for men, it's not for women only. We've got almost 100 men who belong to it now and step up to the plate. We've been doing this for 101 years. As citizens, I just want to remind you, because you may not know it, we do have a special election coming up August the 3rd. I think for the people in this room, there's only one issue on the ballot. And it happens to be a property tax increase for the St. Louis Community College. They haven't gotten one in 40 years. If you own a house whose market value is $200,000, if it passes, you'd be paying about $30 more a year. They want to expand their job training programs in STEM and tech, which desperately need it, to provide training to workers for the new economy, and also to help our students without crippling debt to get ahead before they transfer to four-year institutions. The League will have a write-up on it on its website before too long, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention because sometimes, well, most of the time, voting for that is dismal. So think about that because that's an important part of growing our economy, and growing our region, and growing your community. So I thank you very much. I tried to ask as many questions as I could. If I didn't get to your particular question, I apologize. So, but I think we got a lot of questions out there. So thank you very, very much for having us, and we were honored. And good luck. We'll be watching.
Oh my God!